hard for Morgan to find good flank routes into.
I think we might also be needing to look towards some potential anti-heal from the two of them as well. There's quite a bit onto it. We'll see how the matchup goes for Oni Warriors versus Titans Game 2. Casters, take it away.
In we go to game number 2 between the Tartarus Titans and the Oni Warriors. Still Dolson, still Taco, still Doug for what could be the final game of this set. And I agree again with Aggro. I find myself agreeing with him on many things today. And another one is that Dardes had a great game in game number 1. And has the potential to seal up this set here with a good Morgan game in game 2.
Are you just trying to make Aggro feel better about the fact that your National Girlfriend Day is clearly being spent with Barracuda?
Oh, that's right. That was a fire tweet. Aggro hasn't seen it yet because he was working hard, and so I imagine I'll receive words from him post broadcast. But at least for the next, what is an average SPL game? Like 25 minutes probably. For the next 25 minutes, plus or minus 5 minutes. I'll be safe from the criticism of Aggro. But I do want to talk a little bit about Dardes and then this Morgan pick and plenty of transformation options for space control and damage should the need arise. But it feels like you got Dardes of old a little bit there in game number 1, and that's a great trend for the Oni Warriors if it's able to keep up.
I think what I'm most looking out for is whether or not Dardes plans on utilizing a possibility for double Circuit, or if he even wants to try and turn Scary D's Fenrir utility against him, because the opportunity is definitely there, I think, for a nice Ragnarok to have a pretty heavy impact in terms of displacement, because I think that's the main thing that the Tartarus Titans are looking for with this Umoja pickup. So if Oni Warriors are able to control space better, like you mentioned, Dolson, it could be very problematic in the long term.
Yeah, roar on this Umoja certainly carries with it expectations. And Cyclone Spin is going to have that boar there as well. And I really liked, I look back at what I saw yesterday from Awesome Jake, and I only bring it up because I know Aurora is capable of it as well. It's the target selection with those Rivers Rebukes yesterday really give you a glimpse at how good the Umoja can be in the right hands. And I think Aurora is the right hands, and you know, it's not being afraid to just lock off a single target or using it just for space control. It's the selection of targets or choosing not to use it on a target that really separates, is one of the many facets that separates a good Umoja from a great Umoja. So Aurora, I think, has the ability here. Paul on the Raijin here, going up against the Morgan. That'll be a fun matchup to follow along with as well. Raijin feels like it's just been that just tried and true, you know, steady, you sit in the back, you do great range damage, and gives you a good chance to win a game. But look at this Riptide. Vote gets pulled back in, but likely will survive here as he's able to dash away.
One of the few benefits, I think, of Heimdall in that laning phase, you're just so incredibly safe with the Bifrost. However, Vote definitely has to be mindful of how far out he actually plans on going with the Bifrost. You have to remember, the longer the teleport, the longer the cooldown as well.
Scary D is on a bit of a journey here. Invades the red buff, now moving on over, invading onto the purple buff. So this is a great start for the Tartarus Titans. They're able to get a little bit of map pressure, steal away, a little bit of farm. Cubo Fred over here on the right-hand side of the map, he's at least going to be able to pick up his speed buff once it comes back up, or was looking, excuse me, to pick up Scary D's speed buff. But unfortunately, just shy of the cooldown there. So Scary D off to a great start here in this game. And that's so important, I think, not only with jungle pressure and stealing away farms and invading buffs for Scary D. The moment you tick over to level 5, it really feels like a giant threat on the map for individual targets.
For sure, and especially when you factor in that I think Cubo probably has a little bit of an easier time actually looking for dive line, or dive into the back line, excuse me. But Paul as well on this Raijin, I would imagine, you have to remember, Paul got first blood in game 1 by soloing Dardes, and then nothing else happened.
It was so long ago.
But I would like to see maybe the Tartarus Titans look to try and channel a little bit more of their aggression through Paul, because it's clear that he's definitely trying to fight, and so I do like the switch up already from Scary D, putting a little bit more emphasis onto the duo side of the map. It's clearly trying to throw Neomont and Vote off their game, or at least prevent that Heimdall from hitting level 5 at the same time as Cyclone Spin to give a slight advantage.
Level 5 reached by Cyclone Spin and Aurora, not yet by Neo or Vote. So now is the time to fight. Cyclone still has his beads. Oh, look at this. Neomont walled on off by Aurora, just shy of locking the Terra immediately into place. But I like the timing there from Aurora and Cyclone Spin. You tick over to level 5. Let's see if we can push that advantage.
But with the ultimates having been expended, or at least losing that River's Rebuke might make it a little bit more complicated here for the Tartarus Titans to look for another successful purple buff invade. You can already recognize Cubo trying to ensure that red buff doesn't get stolen away by Scary D yet again, and in fact, it's actually going to be Cubo getting forced back because of Paul's presence, the Raijin, the rotation as well from Aurora. So Scary still maintains duo side map pressure with the rest of the Oni Warriors.
Yeah, on cooldown,
Or
red buff
Titans.
invade for the Scary D, and then immediately over to the purple buff for Scary D, and so now the last 2 reds and the last 2 purples have not been picked up by the Oni Warriors.
Aurora trying to riptide away into safety. Scary actually get chased down by
There's
Dardis.
2 of them!
And he's looking to find just 1 kill though.
Scary D Ragnarocking away, but gets taunted back in by Dardes. Look at the chunk damage there. Will the tick on the end get it? No, it will not. And Dardes. On our graphic, we've seen slightly different colors between the 2. But look at this. It's now the 3rd red and purple buff that is getting pressure put onto it by the Tartarus Titans. This time the rest of the Oni Warriors are going to be here. They're going to try to close that gap, secure up the red buff for the mid laner for once here. Cubo Fred transforms, dashes on away, and then gets riptided back by Aurora. There was a stun on the other end of it. So Cubo Fred will have to leave. Red buff got dropped down, looks like by the Oni Warriors, but Dardes not able to go in there and pick it up.
Beautiful play though by Aurora. Unfortunate that Scary was out of range to actually look for a follow-up brutalize. That would have certainly led to Cubo's death, I would imagine. However, silver lining here for the Oni Warriors. Sure, they might have lost their red buff yet again, but as far as the charts are concerned, not really a significant advantage for the Tartarus Titans just yet. Yeah, a little bit of map